Let's see. I also got some advice from a person involved in golf. I was told by an employee of Top Golf that I should not have my beer bottle in my hand while I'm driving the ball.
What? Why? I don't see how that could end badly at all.
Right. I mean, I was slicing them all to hell, but
you were drunk driving. You're not supposed to drunk drive.
That British wit just always seems to pierce straight through any conversation.
Welcome, guys. This is episode 10 of Yankee and the Brit. Today we've got our first guest for our first double-digit episode, and we've got the mighty Bermansbourbon. Say hi, everyone. Say hi to Bourbon.
Hey, buddy. And for the rest of you, it's Bourbon, and I'm happy to be here.
Bourbon. And so the debate begins.
Nice. This should be fun.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's really hot here, but I know that you guys are probably going to say that's not true because it's like 24 degrees here.
We need that. We need that in Fahrenheit, bud.
Would you mind?
No. I only use real terms. Do you know where Fahrenheit actually comes from?
Science.
The guy who created Fahrenheit literally just made it up for no reason whatsoever. He got water and with a solution of salt and just made it as cold as he possibly could. And then he said, you know what? That's 0.
Huh.
And then he just made up a random scale.
Isn't that how most things were made up, though?
And only America uses it. Nowhere else in the entire world.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's the best. I don't know. That's what I heard. It sounds like it's the best way.
I mean, I suppose you're the only people who've ever walked on the moon, so I suppose you got that going for you. But
as soon as you guys do it, you can make the rules. But until then,
yeah,
it's us.
The victor writes the history, isn't it?
Can I just say how refreshing it is right now to have someone on my side?
That's right. Outnumbered again.
You can't beat me with intelligence, so you beat me with numbers. I see. That's the American way, is it?
Meals a day to get told how to measure the weather.
Yeah. Strength in numbers, bud. Get used to it.
Tea and be really British about it.
I was gonna have a counter just off the screen, like a chalkboard thing, that every time you do something incredibly authentically British, I was gonna give you a knock. I think we
should have made it a whiskey drinking game.
I've already hit 2. You tell the temperature wrong, and you're having tea at what, 9 p.m.?
No, it's about 8 p.m. But I have to stop drinking after 8 p.m. because otherwise I need to get up and pee because I'm an old man.
Because you're old as fuck. That's right.
I'm glad to see nothing's changed between us. I like that a lot. Makes me happy.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
True friends can be a world apart and any length of time.
I will say this just through hobbies, differing hobbies, all sorts of different hobbies. It's amazing how many friends you can have that you've literally never met.
Yeah, it's very peculiar in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
To think you used to be limited basically by who was in your town or who you went to school with.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And now I've traveled halfway across the world 3 times and met multiple people who just never should have met.
Yeah. Nick's been to my house. My son
I've been to his house.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was. We ate
No,
pizza.
I'm more salty.
Yeah. Did it taste like beans on toast?
I'm bitter.
I don't know. I have to ask my son that. I don't know if he
tasted
remembers.
Like spotted dick.
Tasted like spotted dick. That's right.
Obviously, which was my nickname in high school.
And that can't have been because of the dessert, because it was in America, wasn't
it? That's right.
No, that dessert didn't exist here.
Second dessert. All right, so you're drinking beer.
Yes, sir.
That's one demerit. We got wine and tea over there. Those second and third demerit. So, what experience do you all have with whiskey, just in general?
So, if I had to pick a preferred spirit, it would be whiskey. Okay. It's not a bourbon, but I do enjoy Jameson a lot.
Sure.
I'm
I
not
was
too big
expecting
of
a bigger reaction to that.
Yeah.
No. Listen, I feel like everybody has a gateway whiskey, right? You have a gateway whiskey, and it could be Fireball, it could be Irish whiskey, it could be Scotch, it could be Japanese whiskey. There are a lot of different ways people get into whiskey. A lot of them start with Crown, Canadian whiskey. You know, everyone's journey is different. Do you want a little more boldness? You're going to go shot for shot with your buddies until you pass out, or you want something? You know, my wife put on the Real Housewives of New York. I need something to get through it. I'm going to pour something very strong. So everyone's got their way that they come about it. But honestly, I used to drink Jameson as well. And actually I used to drink Bushmills Irish whiskey.
Bushmills. I've never had that.
But I wasn't drinking it the way I drink now, which we can get into. But it was Irish whiskey and ginger, because I didn't really have a brand of choice per se. Anything at a bar was good enough because I'm mixing it with high fructose corn syrup, you know, so everything tastes
Like
palatable.
the American way. It's probably too early to ask this question, but when it comes to actually tasting the whiskey, if you don't taste, I know you do the back of the tongue sort of thing.
Mhm.
If you're literally just knocking it back, is there a particularly distinct difference?
Yeah. So the first thing that happens when people see all of this behind me, they ask me what time and day are the meetings. But in reality, it shouldn't be that broad of a statement, but generically so. If you actually did slam back bottles of booze, you don't have what's behind me, because some of these bottles will last me a year, maybe a year and a half, because I like so many different things on different days. I might have only 2 ounces of bourbon in an entire week. So none of these am I really going to slam back. Just being honest, you've got.
In terms of flavor, is the flavor that distinct if you're not tasting it properly, like with the smell receptors?
I personally think so, because if you just slam it back, one thing, and I've got fancy glasses kind of scattered all around the house. My kids put juice in them sometimes, but I've got fancy glassware sometimes, and that's literally made to bring the ethanol and accentuate it upright into your nose. So if you're just slamming it back, you're probably missing out on a third to a half of the whiskey experience. And more than likely, you've never slammed something back and go, man, that was pleasant. May I have another? It's competition style.
It's usually, and then let's have another.
It's like, oh, nobody really enjoys this. What are you doing?
Yeah.
If you have it like that, it's mostly going to suck.
Yeah.
And do you have to overcome your gag reflex for that?
I mean,
tasting properly.
Or
is that a personal pleasure?
Nick, it's whiskey, not a brothel.
Yeah, when you're drinking it though, at the back of the throat.
You don't stick the whole thing in your mouth. I don't know what videos. I don't know what instructional videos you've been watching, but they're certainly the wrong ones.
See, he's British. We got to give him a pass on that one.
I mean, maybe there's some stuff on your TVs or your tellies that we don't see, but I've never seen anybody try to deep throw the entire bottle. But because I know what I think you meant, certainly, like I was answering John's question, you probably want to work your. I mean, there's a bottle right there that's 129 proof. There are various Four Roses bottles that'll just burn your nose hair off if you don't know what you're drinking. But I think you do work your way up to it to where you can actually appreciate it. Yeah. You smell it first. Your body initially goes, wait, let's be careful. That is ethanol. That is very high proof. Let's take it easy. Your body is literally trying to warn you that this might suck. So poison. It's probably poison.
Yeah, I had a bottle that was called Johnny Drum.
Sure.
And it came with instructions, drink with water, with a little bit of water in it. It did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah.
Am I right in saying
it was pretty harsh?
Am I right in saying that most whiskey generally, because people add some people add water and some people add ice, but I'm sure I've seen somewhere before that they said that whiskey should be drank at 40% alcohol, so 80 proof.
Yeah.
If it's high, you add water or you add ice.
Well, here's what I like to do. maybe it was the way I was like raised, even if your mother cooked you a meal and you didn't like something on your plate, you always had what was called the no thank you portion, where your parents made you eat it even if you didn't want to eat it. So what I use the same philosophy with whiskey. I typically want people to always try whiskey neat. No ice, no shaking, nothing. Try it neat first. That's why most of the things that are on my bar are over 100 proof and sometimes way over 100 proof, because I want someone to taste it as close to straight out of the barrel, as they can, as close to straight out of the barrel as possible. And then you can always proof down to taste. But what you can't do is you can't add proof back.
Yeah.
Once it's
so
diluted.
to manufacture.
Yeah. So
initially is how the manufacturers made it.
Yes, sir. That's exactly my philosophy. Is I want to try it how they intended me to drink it. Now, if they proofed it down for me already, there's bottles I've tried where I can literally separate out the alcohol from the water, like in my mouth, and go, damn it, I really wish that they wouldn't have cut it down to 80 proof. But if you're mixing, I don't think there's really a place for 80 proof in a lot of people's bars, because even if you're mixing, right, even if you're buying whiskey because you like to mix it, doesn't hurt my feelings at all. But if you're mixing it, something that you're mixing it with also has water, might also have ice. So then you start getting under 80 proof, and it's like dollar store whiskey. It's the essence of whiskey. The artist formerly known as bourbon.
Yeah.
Oh.
What bottle are you most proud of up there on that shelf?
That's a fantastic question. There are a lot of bottles that are hard to find, but with enough money, you can pretty much get almost any whiskey. Even some that are very, very limited. If they end up in a liquor store shelf and you have enough money, you can buy it. Your Pappy Van Winkles, your bottles like that. If you have enough money and you drive around enough, you can find Pappy. It's actually not as limited as some people think it is. It's just, it demands a high resale value online. So people normally don't just have them laying around. But if you have enough money, you can get it. I say that to say this. There are some bottles that I have behind me that when the distiller dumped the barrel, it was one barrel as opposed to a batch of barrels that are a blend. It is one barrel, and that barrel netted 60 bottles. So on the planet, there are only 60 of these. Those bottles seem to me to be more valuable, without maybe dollar valuable because you might have a lot more money than me, but you don't have this.
Yeah.
Or you don't
and
have
you can
that.
never taste it.
If you're not sitting like where I'm sitting right now, there are some bottles I have you can't taste. And that's because it was a private charity donation only opportunity to purchase. It was a distillery only event, and they handed out 100 tickets, and that's all there were. So those bottles probably mean more to me than just what is the most expensive bottle you have, or what is the most popular or hyped up or talked about bottle. Yeah. So I've got some bottles over here. Can you all see these, or do they come through or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So Four Roses Distillery happens to be my favorite personal distillery. And I've been fortunate enough to pick a handful of barrels there for either liquor stores or private whiskey clubs. Some of those bottles, they lasted on a shelf an hour. They were just snagged and gone, first come, first serve. I've got a lot of bottles like that, but there is one bottle in particular back here that a man who was a brand ambassador for Four Roses for 50 years, before he passed away, on my daughter's birthday, he wrote a special note, and it's dated for her birthday. He passed away, I think 2 years ago now. So that bottle I'll probably just never open.
Of course.
Damn.
That's
there
awesome.
bottles? Yeah, are there bottles that are way more expensive? 100%.
Yeah.
But anybody with money can typically get them. You can't get that one.
What it feels like you're saying to me is you're the Charlie Bucket, and it's like Willy Wonka. You got the golden ticket, and anyone else can have a candy bar, but I got the golden ticket.
I think this is a really good introduction to bourbon. and I don't know if you all planned it or you're just a lot more educated than I thought you were. It's probably that one.
Definitely not true.
but I think the reason that you really don't shoot back good quality bourbon, number one, like I said, it'll burn your nose hairs off. But two,
I need some of that. But, yeah.
You are a hairy man, if I remember correctly.
I am a very hairy man, so I'll keep my collar up nice and high.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Any of those suckers sneak out, we got to change the rating on this episode. But it's because, you hear the term sipping whiskey.
Yeah.
They call it sipping whiskey for a reason. Number one, if it's 125 proof, you're not going to slam it back, right? But also, what I just did is kind of how these distillers intended their bottles to be talked about. They tell a story. If you have a 12-pack of Coors Light, there's not a whole lot of stories you can tell about this Coors Light. I'm going to open it. I'm going to shotgun it in the middle of the Target parking lot, and I'm going to go on to the next one because there's nothing special about it. I have a goal.
It's piss in a can.
I'm trying to get drunk, and these
You
12
watch
cans
yourself,
are going to
Nick.
get there.
I detest Coors Light. I think it is Satan's liquid.
I
just
detest you.
It has no place on this earth. It should just be gone.
Luckily, we cut that part out.
So goodbye to all of our American fans.
Yeah. Well, now that half the room has left. No,
all
here's
two
my
of them.
thing. All of these spirits, all of this alcohol, it has a time and a place. Would I bring a 10-year-old 120 proof bourbon to a tailgate? No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, would I sneak it into Disney World to help tolerate a day with the kids? 100%. Everything, I think everything has a place. So again, if I'm just trying to just kind of get drunk, if I'm just trying to get drunk, yeah, there's probably bottles I will reach for before other bottles, because I don't care how nice it was, how expensive it was, whatever. I'm trying to get drunk. Okay. I'm trying to get drunk. So give me 1 second. Let me mute all this. We'll cut all this out.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm trying to mute all the notifications coming in.
No problem. This leads me on to one of my important questions.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been so successful at being a drunk? Because I've tried to figure the formula and I desperately want to do it.
I just get in trouble when I'm drunk.
It's filters and ring lights.
I get punched.
Oh,
it's a perfect combination of filters and ring lights and hashtags.
It makes it seem classy.
That's right. Well, and again, I mean, bourbon is very popular right now. There was a time when bourbon was not only not popular, nobody was buying it. No, but in fact, a great other segue. So these up here are antique vintage decanters from like the 1970s and 1980s.
Those are decanters.
That's Elvis Presley.
Those are real. Yeah, that's Elvis Presley in a working music box, by the way.
Nice.
There you go. Wild Turkey. Those are Wild Turkey decanters.
Yeah.
Bourbon was not always popular. They were doing gimmicks and anything they could to get bourbon off of the shelves. That means even putting like a $7 bottle of Wild Turkey into a $45 decanter because now it's collectible.
Yep.
So the part of the reason you know what? You haven't been to the 70s because everything in the 70s was tacky, but it was stylish. It was stylish.
It's become retro, so then it's stylish.
That's right. So bourbon now is popular again. It was really not popular for like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, really early 90s. Bourbon just wasn't popular. The best bourbon that the United States was making, which, small plug, bourbon can only be made in the United States. Doesn't have to only be made in Kentucky, but it has to be made only in the United States. So there we go. We'll come back to that in a second if you want, but bourbon is now popular again, a la Pokemon cards. So the Instagram thing and the social media thing, it is now, I mean, I'm displaying all of this whiskey behind me. Somebody will see this somewhere and say, I know what those are. Let me pause that video. Let me see if I've got what he's got.
Yeah.
So as of right now, bourbon is crazy popular. You have more people getting into bourbon. And when I say into it, I mean buying bottles with a purpose, because I saw this on Facebook. I saw this on Instagram. I read about this in Forbes. I mean, Forbes is even saying, there's articles right now that if you collect, trade, and sell whiskey, and you got into it 3 years ago, there are certain whiskeys that you can buy, sell, and trade that perform better than certain stocks. So you have people.
It's an asset, like, yeah.
Some
And a
of it
pissing
really
contest as well.
100% pissing contest. 100%.
I've never won one of them, so
Stand closer to the urinal and people wouldn't be able to tell.
You gotta watch
but
that
then you
splashback
have to
though.
wear like a splash guard. Then,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Well, the alternative is you get made fun of at a Manchester City game.
You've been to see Manchester City?
No, it's just the first thing I thought of to be relatable.
Okay. I always use a cubicle then because I'm shy.
Oh.
Oh, you're that guy?
I'm that guy, yeah. But I don't
Can
have
you
my
get out of
trousers
the
around my
handicap
ankles.
stall? Just a minute.
Yeah,
I don't
think
put my trousers around my ankles like a 3-year-old does.
you know who I've seen do that multiple times in public places. My brother, when he's piss drunk, he will go in the bathroom into the stall, not into the stall, into the urinal, and he will just drop trowel all the way to his ankles.
Just to try and make sure that he actually can control himself.
Yeah, and then he'll put his hand on the wall and he'll just sit.
There was always that one kid who did it late, wasn't there?
Yeah.
You all got to like 6 or 7 years old and you were like big boys now and you didn't have to drop your trousers on the floor so you didn't pee on your leg. And there was always that one kid who like it took him till he was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Unbuttons his diaper and just lets it out.
And that's how I got kicked out of my local church.
And that's how you got the nickname Spotted Dick.
That's it. You know, it's one time. It's one time you forget to close the door and then you get a nickname for life.
That's all it takes.
It's terrible.
That's all it
These
takes.
kids are awful.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys go in there and shoot them up.
There's a lot of reasons we do that. Not a good one. None of them are good.
That's a different episode, Nick. Get it back on track here.
I think we've already done some of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how'd you get started in all this? Like,
So great. Another really good question. I wanted to be a salesman. My family had a packaging company, boxes and tape and all that jazz. And when it was 2012, I think it was, and I really wanted to be a salesperson. So my uncle was the owner of our company, and I said, I'm ready for the big time. I'm ready for the big bucks. I've got plans, yada, yada. So we are in Miami, Florida. That's where I was born and raised. Grew up in South Florida. Never went too far north besides like Atlanta, Georgia. So he tells me he's got an opening, and I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be in Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Tampa, Orlando. No, we had like an 85-year-old salesman who died in our Louisville, Kentucky branch. And before I leave, I get the pep talk that basically says, all right, here's the skinny. You don't look like them. You don't talk like them. You talk way too fast. You know, so if you want to fit in your new home of Louisville, Kentucky, you need to do two things. You need to start watching college sports, start drinking bourbon, or start
slow
playing
your
golf.
speech down.
Just to slow
Start
my
drinking
speech
bourbon to
down.
slow your speech down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't adjust your cameras. This is just how fast I talk. So I moved up here, never been to Kentucky. I was expecting, banjos and, spittoons and moonshine.
yeah.
And so just saloons. Everything was a saloon in my mind. I get up here and I fall in love with Louisville, Kentucky. No hyperbole. It's a fantastic city. It's where I live now. But I really didn't have a whole lot to relate to people up here. They aren't showy. Everyone from Florida is very showy. Everybody from here wants to tell you a story. Where did you grow up? What church do you go to? What college sports team do you follow? They all try to be really, really friendly, which in South Florida, it doesn't happen. If you use your blinker indicating that you're changing lanes, they'll just shoot you. It's offensive. So I was not used to people being so hospitable when I first moved up here. So I got into bourbon because I was told to. And as a salesperson, I was making sales calls at these distilleries. And I was just blown away. I wanted to know everything there was to know about these distilleries. Have you ever heard of Blanton's?
I have not.
So Blanton's is this bottle. It's got a horse on the top of it. It's pretty popular. It's in a lot of TV shows. A lot of TV shows nowadays. You'll have somebody like John Wick. John Wick pours Blanton's for himself all the time. So around this time that I moved up here, Mad Men, is popular, and all these TV shows are popular talking about bourbon. And there also happened to be a very publicized heist. Somebody stole a full truckload of Pappy Van Winkle from Buffalo Trace Distillery. These employees started to get to know. Let me pause by saying right now, distilleries are very sophisticated. They're now very computerized, very sophisticated. But not too long ago, it was scratch pads and Excel spreadsheets. So if I'm working at Buffalo Trace that day and I need to dump a bunch of barrels of Pappy Van Winkle, I may have dumped 50 barrels, but I'm putting down 49. And that barrel comes home with me. So it was a perfect storm because bourbon was getting popular again. TV shows were popularizing bourbon. There was all these articles written about fancy whiskey. And honestly, it was a taste profile that I truly got into. So I moved away from Kentucky for a bit. I danced around a lot, but I would go and just bourbon would be the one thing that I'd be able to make new friends. Bourbon clubs, whiskey groups, Facebook groups, bottle shares, events where people get together and they only talk about bourbon and cigars and all this stuff. Man, I just got hooked.
It's a similar thing to people with like car interest, being a member of a car group,
Mm-hmm.
I think in fairness, in this day and age, there's so many things people get muddy the water of. You go somewhere and you have a political argument and then you get divided and everyone gets angry and we all get triggered. But if you can have a subject which you're all into, it's good. And if you're doing business with it as well, like with your golf as well, now you're a pro golfer after saying for years you hated it.
Oh, now wait. So to be fair, I still can't golf, like at all. I don't have the build.
I've seen the videos. Don't worry, I know you can.
every video I take, I'm like, this is the one I'm posting on social media, and I'm going to be proud of. And it never happens. You
watch it at the back, and it's like, nope.
No, I saw one where that ball is probably still flying right now, and this was like months ago. You crushed that damn thing.
So I can hit the ball very far, but apparently there's more to golf than just whacking the crap out of it. I don't know. I don't watch it, but supposedly there's more to the game than just hitting the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
They tell me.
I mean, this is where I'm going to try and be really humble now and say that I was told by the course record holder of the club that we're in the town that I'm in, that who's been to PGA tours, he's played for 45 years. And he said, I have a swing that most professionals would give up half of their bank accounts to have because it would take them to more PGA titles.
Oh. So you have been keeping up with it then?
And, well, actually, the other day was the first time I've been in about 3 years. I went yesterday. First 5-6 shots, straight over the back fence every single time. I don't know what but then as soon as I pick up an iron or a putter, like playing a real game, I'm lucky if I can get it off the ground. Basically, I'm a driving specialist, and that is it. So,
let's see. I also got some advice from a person involved in golf. I was told by an employee of Topgolf that I should not have my beer bottle in my hand while I'm driving the ball.
What? Why? I don't see how that could end badly at all.
Right. I mean, I was slicing them all to hell, but
you were drunk driving. You're not supposed to drunk drive.
That British wit just always seems to pierce straight through any conversation.
Just undercuts the conversation, kills it dead, doesn't it? That's why we've got so little fans.
Yeah. I'm done with my story. Thanks, Nick.
Acquired
I
taste.
just topped it.
Supposedly they're building a Top Golf near my house, so now I can spend money on another frivolous hobby that I'm
Yes.
not that great at.
And it's incorrect. Golf's probably nearly as expensive as your bourbon is, to be fair.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh
Can
yeah.
Can I hear you say bourbon one more time, though?
Bourbon.
Okay.
You didn't say it like that. No.
That's not how you
Did I
said
say
it the first-
bourbon?
You said
There you
bourbon.
Did I say bourbon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Which
It's
one's my
tricky because
favorite?
we've actually got biscuits, or as you call them, cookies, called Bourbon biscuits, and it's spelt exactly the same. And because we don't have bourbon
Mhm.
over here very much, it's just whiskey, scotch, whatever. It's just
Mhm.
habitual that when something's written like that, your mind automatically goes to bourbon.
I would not fare well over there just at all. I would intentionally pronounce things wrong so often I would eventually get escorted out of the country, I imagine.
No, you wouldn't get escorted out because we have a British politeness, which means that we would tut at you and then whisper behind you about what an ignorant American you are. But we wouldn't actually do anything about it.
Hey Steve, you
And
know
we'd probably make some sarcastic comments. 'cause
the,
that's
Naturally.
what we're good at.
the British police don't carry firearms. I was told.
No, they
That's
don't.
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
I did not know that.
But the British people don't carry firearms, so they don't require them. So people don't get killed.
I need to actually
I'm
go back.
sure plenty of people die over there.
Yeah, I need to. I saw what you guys were talking about the other episode, and I need to go back. You guys did film that episode, correct?
Which
About
episode?
firearms.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll have to go back and watch that one because I always wonder.
it was like a segment in there, but
I
yeah,
think it was a segment in
Okay.
our stereotypes one, which actually might have been our first episode.
yeah.
So speaking of stereotypes, there is a high-end whiskey glass making company. I know that might sound foolish to anybody. You can't use a solo cup. No, you can't use a red solo cup.
No. I agree. I just bought myself a whiskey glass, and then that's when I noticed that I didn't have whiskey to put in it.
Just
That's it.
before you go into that, I was actually always, you can drink out of anything. You can drink out of a mug. And then I started drinking wine out of wine glasses, and I'm completely changed. I now
See?
will not drink wine out of anything but a wine glass. But anyway, carry on.
No. I mean, first off, I mean that has to happen. If you're going to intentionally pick out your alcohol of any kind, there probably is an appropriate receptacle for maximum enjoyment. And that being said, my buddy Denver, who lives in Australia, which remember, I know we all used to have our days trying to figure out time zones. We had a
Yes.
similar experience. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I always feel like Australia is like at least a day in the future or a day and a
Yeah.
half in the future. It's
Yeah, they
really
can tell you what's
wild.
going to happen.
Exactly. If they would just tell me what's going to happen, I'd win the lottery. I would
Yep.
share some with them.
Yep.
They should make
Everybody
movie
gets a
about it.
cut.
Yeah.
They're just so
But anyway-
selfish.
Well, when he wants to FaceTime with me, he's like, why is it so hard to have a normal conversation with you sometimes? And I said, and I know this is going to sound really bad or weird, but I try not to sound so stereotypically American all the time. Like it's prevalent in my head every time. How do I not sound so stereotypically American? I would lose. I lose
It's
every
quite
time.
interesting because I watch a lot of American TV. A lot of our TV is American. We have all your sitcoms. I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine is my favorite show, pretty
Great show.
much. I watch on E4 all the time. So I've got your vernacular and I know the words. I know the not translations, but I know your versions of the words. Whereas I say a lot of things and the amount of Americans who are just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But there's no word in America generally that you're going to use, which I'm not going to know. So it's quite
Yeah.
interesting that because you don't have RTV, because RTV is mostly shit. It's garbage.
Yeah.
So
He said,
I
yeah.
don't blame anyone for not wanting to watch it.
I
I mean,
was
we've got Geordie Shore, which is a bunch of rich kids who really, really dull and stupid, who are just constantly having affairs between a bunch of friends. Why they stay friends, I have no idea. Apart from the fact that it's actually scripted, but it's supposed to be reality TV.
Yep. Never is.
No.
Never is.
It's all scripted, but no one seems to believe it. It's very strange.
One of my wife's best friends, she very early on hit it off as an independent freelancer for camera work. And there was a boy band singer named Nick Lachey. He's from 98 Degrees. I think it was the band. Well,
Yeah.
he married like Vanessa something.
Hudgens?
No, it wasn't Hudgens.
No, Vanessa Milano.
Alyssa Milano.
Well, I think I'm mixing people up.
Yeah, yeah.
But the main
You're
character
blending.
is the boy
You're
band.
blending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so she went down to some island to film that TV show, and she came back and she was like, "You guys aren't going to believe this. None of this is real." She goes, "We have writers. They said it. They said it for the day." And I was like, "Fine, but at least house hunters, that's real, right?" She goes, "No, they've already bought the house before they go house hunting." I was like, "Son of a bitch." I was like, "What about the great American cookie cupcake bakeries? That's authentic?" She goes, "No, they've already baked those items. They're just remaking them again for the judges." I'm like, if you tell me my whole life is a lie, I'm going to be upset. And that's when I found out all of American TV is pretty much scripted. There's few, maybe Cops. I think Cops really was filmed on location.
Yeah, that one's probably going to be a hard one to fake, in fairness.
You see them behind the police cars paying people off, right? We're going to take you down. We're going to take you down hard. So just...
Yeah, right. Okay, we're going to shoot you in the back of the head, okay?
Right.
But don't worry, it's all scripted.
It's all scripted.
And what's my line again? You're holding the meth for a friend. Now run that way, fast.
Yeah. We're just going to paint you in black as well, because that's what we like to do.
Oh,
You
It
have
makes it easier to pull the trigger.
You have been watching American TV. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all we get. And we get tarnished by it because we start to feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I know there's racism here, but we haven't got the history of segregation that you've got. Like during the Second World War, of course, you had black sectors of the army argument. So you had you had individuals. So you had white brigades and you had the black brigades, and they would all come over and fight over here. But then, of course, you had segregation over there. So your white army members, if a black person came into the bar, they would say they've got to get out because of segregation. And the British would fight on the side of the black people in the bar brawls because we didn't have any of that. So at the moment, we've got this Black Lives Matter movement, of course, which is predominantly from America, of course. And it's become really, really big over here, actually, surprisingly big, considering we don't have that instilled racism, not to the same degree. I'm not saying there's no racism here. Of course there is. Sure. But we almost take on your outrage because of the amount of media that we receive from you.
Mm-hmm. We've tainted what you're saying.
Pro and negative Trump.
We've instilled in you a sense of fighting for justice that you may not have noticed you need personally, but you're on our side on social media and media.
Pretty much, yeah. We're well and truly brainwashed by your propaganda. We might as well be American.
Well, we'll be happy to have you.
But we're not changing our temperature.
Well, then you can go to hell.
We're still gonna do that the same way.
No go. I apologize.
Yeah, Steve, I'm gonna kick him from the Zoom, Steve, and we'll just continue you and I.
Yeah, can you put a flag filter behind you, please?
Definitely.
I need to get re-Americanized immediately. Jeez. No, I get it.
On our thumbnail, I'm gonna have to cram both of you on the American flag, so you're both going to be a lot smaller than me.
Yeah, put some guns next to us as well.
Yeah, guns and a couple of bottles and
yeah.
Could you fit us both on a bald eagle or no?
I mean, you could be a bald eagle, but I mean, actually, in fairness, so could John. Take your hat off, John.
Are you full on now?
He's pretty much full on.
Oh, there you go.
I need to cut the hair, but yeah.
I'm just going to take my wig off. Hang on. Now we have our hair over here.
Yeah. You had the same style for a bit.
Some of us get it. None of us get it pinned like the way that Trump did. We have that pinned wig.
Yeah,
is that what you're going to go for, or?
No, dude. Chicks dig this, honestly.
Yeah, chicks like the baldness. If you can rock the bald, just go. So
that's a dig at me for being really hairy.
Yeah, you need to get all of it off of you, like immediately, please.
I have been waxed from head to toe for charity before. It wasn't pleasant. I wouldn't recommend it.
If somebody matched your donation, would you do it again?
I raised quite a bit of money in the end. Actually, I think I raised something in the region of £500 or £600.
Wow.
And
which
how
is
many
about 700 or
pounds
800.
of hair was taken off you?
I have a notorious thing which we've had a bit of a debate about, which over here is called a snail trail, which in
I'm
America is
imagining
not called a
that's
snail
one
trail.
for one translation.
It's so
I
wrong.
think
Yeah. So
Okay.
I mean, I personally, I made it quite notorious because I used to call it my hairway to heaven because it led down nicely
Nope.
into
Got
that
it.
direction.
Nope. Got it.
I'm not going to show you, don't worry. But
Got it.
yeah, I'm sure you can visualize that.
Nick, I think you should show
So
him.
that was pretty notorious. So one of the people actually bid. They actually had a bidding competition to see who would get to pull the wax strip for that part of my stomach.
Ooh.
And this was in the dead of winter. And a young lad who was probably about 12 or 13, who was wearing a pair of gloves, attempted it. It probably took him a good 5 or 6 attempts. By the end of it, there was blood running down my stomach.
Oh.
It was not pleasant. In the end, he had to have someone help him actually get it off.
Get the whole village together. Everybody grabs a strand and a strip. And
Pretty
yank it.
much, yeah. Everyone grab a hair and pull, please.
Jeez.
That sounds
But
like a
it's not
punishment.
as bad as the nipples were. They were pretty horrendous.
Did they go over like your nipple over the whole thing?
Yeah.
Why? Oh.
Well, how else are you going to do it? You're going to do like a ring around it.
I would.
Yeah. Hello.
I'm gonna need a minute here, guys.
You got to take some areola. You've got to make sure you get every single
I
strand out.
know. I need my areolas, all right.
Yeah,
I mean, some people have like hairs in the middle, didn't they?
I think you're
I
at a
don't
zoo.
know.
At a zoo, you might see that. I don't think actual men. Have
I'm
that.
sure I've heard of that before, like a woman having a random strand on her nipple.
I've never experienced it.
I don't know. I mean, if I got a hair caught in my teeth when I'm in that area, I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. I'm gone. Business card on the table. Don't
But
call
it's
me. I'll
acceptable
call
to
you.
get a hair caught in your teeth when you're in other areas.
No, but if it'd be like, okay, well, this is par
You're
for
going to
the
power
course.
through on that one.
Yeah, it's par for the course. I would expect it.
Yeah,
To be a potential.
it's
So
expected.
it's the shock of the nipple hair in your tuft that gets you. Mm.
Yeah, that's gonna be one I'm not gonna recover from. The
No.
moment's over. Let's go back to watching Gilmore Girls for the 5th time.
Yeah. Forget Netflix and chill. This is now just Netflix.
No, in fact, honey, I'm not. Use guest bedroom, master bedroom. Let's not. If I don't see you till the morning, it won't be soon enough.
You need to take a real hot shower and
Put your bra back on.
Yeah.
Put some tape over it. Some
So,
pasties.
honey, I would say it's not you. This one's you.
Yeah, you've got to wax that thing. If you need a reference, ask the Brit.
Babe, why are there tweezers under my pillow? The nipple fairy came to visit last night. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules.
My ex-girlfriend used to get really annoyed by the length of the ones on my back. So she would take it upon herself to pluck them. And because I used to hate it so much, she decided that she was going to do it while I was in my sleep. Which of course didn't work, because as soon as she did it, I would immediately wake up.
What does she think? How many did she think she would get done before you woke up and came?
Yeah,
I haven't got
really.
a clue. I have no idea. But the thing is because at the time she didn't work and I did. I used to work 10.5 hour shit, a day. So I would come home exhausted and I do a manual labor job. So I'm physically exhausted. And it'd be like 2 a.m. Then all of a sudden I just get this very sharp pain out my back. Then again, she never stabbed me. So there's that.
Having that terrible dream where I fall into a cactus again. Weird. Why does that keep happening? So weird.
If you ever felt like you were having acupuncture go wrong.
By the way, my bourbon glass is nowhere near me right now. So we're going to do
Straight from the bottle.
There we go.
Ooh. Ding.
Ding.
that is. This is a 14.5-year-old, 120 proof Knob Creek.
Straight from the bottle.
Boom.
Love a bit of knob.
What would you
and
suggest?
you'd say you didn't have to get rid of your gag reflex to have knob.
No, actually, look, the neck on this is so short. The little chode.
I could take a lot bigger than that.
Yeah,
I've seen
real,
it.
Real tall bottles.
Nick and I are uncomfortably close. So what would you suggest for, I guess I would say I'm a beginner like myself,
Mhm.
something that has a little bit of bite to it, but not too crazy. Like
Yeah.
I do enjoy my Jameson, what is it? The single barrel Jack Daniels. I do enjoy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is a good one. That bottle didn't last long. I bought it. So something along the lines.
Now, how do you drink? Neat?
I like to drink
Nice.
it neat.
Okay. So Jack Daniel's single barrel, I think is like 94 proof. They do make a barrel proof version of that can be really hot, 130 odd proof sometimes.
Oof.
But Jack Daniel's being a Tennessee whiskey, which is a different whole nother conversation. But most, I don't know. Have you tried a lot of Woodford stuff?
I have not. No.
So to me, I like to be in a proof range. There are people who only drink high octane stuff, right? Over 120 proof because I'm a man and I will bite this bullet straight in half and I will spit out a perfect bullseye. There are people who like that. I think if any whiskey drinker should find out where in the proof range they like to play. So like my stepdad, he likes to drink whiskey, bourbon, but he will not drink anything like above 110 proof.
Okay.
Like the heat is too hot for him. He's like in his early 50s. It's just too hot for him. He can't handle it. So there are some things that he likes. He likes Breckenridge out of Breckenridge, Colorado. He likes Breckenridge. He likes, it's a little harder to find, but if you can find E.H. Taylor, which are these two bottles here.
E.H. Taylor.
So E.H. Taylor has a product called Small Batch. It comes in a tube. It looks pretty fancy, even though if you can find it, it's typically under $50. It also depends on how fast you're probably going to kill it. So if you're going to knock back a bottle like in a weekend or two, do you really want to spend a bunch of money on it? That's for you to decide.
Yeah, it's usually when I get home from after work.
Yeah,
a little bit in the glass, just kind of relax me.
It's like a nightcap or a sipping whiskey. It
Exactly,
depends on sort
yeah.
of what you're planning on, how you're going with it. Is
Yeah.
there like a proof that you find becomes overpowering to the flavor? Do you find there's more flavor in sort of a better range?
So great question again. So I work with a lot of distilleries on either social media projects or just because I know a lot of distillers.
Yeah, I see that your Facebook's you're always going live on
Instagram,
the Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. It's really cool to do behind the scenes. Sometimes I get very lucky with what I do. And one thing distillers can do that I can't do, if you ever watch a video of how bourbon is made, there is White Dog, White Lightning, moonshine, basically, that is what is basically put into a barrel for the aging process. The distillers will put their glass right into the White Dog as it's coming off of the still, and they'll be like, here, try this. It's something that we're working on. It's like 150 proof, it's basically vodka. Yeah. It's basically like corn flavored vodka. And I have found that my wife is way better at picking up like flavors and complexity in higher proof whiskey than I am. Like I can have a lot more of them before I pass out piss drunk on the floor. But as far as picking out flavors and really high proof whiskey, it's tough, man. There's a certain, like this right here, that was 120 proof.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of Knob Creek in my life. And I know what to expect. So it's kind of like, all right, heat, a little bit of rye spice, big, bold flavor, and then it kind of dissipates. So in my range, I personally like to stay between like 115 and 125.
So you think the range varies purely on the individual generally?
I personally do. I mean, I know people that can drink that White Dog, the new make, White Lightning, moonshine, whatever, and they're like, man, I'm getting all these kind of notes out of it. I'm like, I personally can't do
I've got a sore tongue. I'm getting a sore tongue and the back of my throat hurts.
I mean, here's the other thing too. I mean, yes, there are some bottles I have where like my boys come over, it's a competition. I bet you can't drink this without grimacing. For sure.
I would win that game every time.
You would lose badly.
I think you'd be surprised.
Okay. I got some stuff over here.
I would not grimace.
We are taking a trip soon.
I promise you, I would not grimace. I might pass out very quickly, but I would not grimace.
That is a fair yet important differentiation. I
am
my
probably a
favorite-
lighter weight than anyone, but yeah,
Mhm.
I would not grimace.
But you'll handle it.
Is that a fat
I'll
joke?
handle it.
Hey, making fat joke?
I mean, I know I've got a little bit of a pudge, but I've been on the road lately, man. Come on.
I mean, actually, at the moment, I can't really comment because I have put on quite a substantial amount of weight. Otherwise, normally, I'd have been straight in with that one.
You
But
disgust
I don't
me.
want to admit how much I weigh at the moment.
You wouldn't
You'll be
understand
fine.
anyway because it'll be in kilos, right?
How many stones?
Actually, we do it in stone and pounds. So I know you don't do stone, but it is in pounds.
Mhm.
But you get
We're
stoned.
Yeah.
not, we're not fully metric.
Fully metric. Yeah, but you're way closer than anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, there is something I think for everybody when they start. There's something that you buy that either you want to work your way into, a shirt, kind of like a shirt that you like that shirt. I don't really fit into it just yet, but I'm going to work my way into it. There's a lot of higher proof whiskey that I think works that way. You know what? I bought it. It's 130 proof, but it has great reviews online. People are very it's a very desirable bottle. I'm going to work my way into it. So I'm going to buy it. I'm going to put 2 ice cubes in it because that's how I like it. Next time I go to it, I'm going to put 1 ice cube. Next time I go to it, I'm going to do a couple of splashes of water. Then next time I'm going to drink it completely neat.
Yeah.
And that's when I think you really pick up a whole lot of appreciation for what's called barrel proof or straight from the barrel whiskey.
See, I've noticed. Oh, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, good.
I've noticed sometimes where there was days where it was just going down really good, and there was some days where I just couldn't handle the bite from it from the same bottle.
Yep.
And is that just like your mood that day, or because I know my taste buds are destroyed from all the spicy foods I've ever eaten, and all the times I've burned my mouth. I'm not gonna pick up on any notes. I'm not
Mexican. Spicy food.
Mexican. Yeah, like I tell my friends, like I'm not like full blood, Jew. I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. I'm not like a half. Like my coworkers would be like, "Hey, we're having bacon cheeseburgers today. Are you okay with that?" I'm like, "Look at me. You think I got this way, never having a bacon cheeseburger? My ancestors will understand. They'll understand."
I'll plots on the kugel later or whatever the hell it is.
Exactly. Hey, kugel, what? Yeah. Look at you, man.
That's my American TV coming in.
Yeah.
Kugel. Apart from I couldn't get on board with what the hell was that thing you had the other day? It was a salmon, wasn't it?
Oh, lox on a bagel.
I'd seen lox. I'd seen that all over American TV, and I assumed it was some kind of like I don't know, like a snail, or I don't know. Lox sounds to me like a little chunk of, I don't know. I really had no idea what the hell it was.
It's salmon.
When you showed me what it was, I was like, that just doesn't make sense. That name doesn't sound right.
I love it. I love to be like, they got all those YouTube videos about, Australian people react to American snacks, whatever. Like, there's still so many things that we eat here, and obviously vice versa. But I think with the size of the country that we are, when something is very widely accepted here, but seen as completely foreign overseas, I think it still blows me away. How do you not know?
The thing is, I mean, we do have salmon, but it isn't a particularly common thing. But we wouldn't call it lox. I've never heard that term used in the UK. I've only ever heard it on American TV.
So if you're at a restaurant, and I'm going to get this wrong, all of my other Jewish friends are going to be mad at me. My wife would know upstairs, but if you go to a restaurant and you go to like a Jewish deli, you can get lox on your bagel, which I think is the higher quality. It's more expensive. Or you can get Nova, N-O-V-A, which I believe is the salmon, but it's not as great quality and it's inside the cream cheese already. As opposed to lox that you lay on top of your cream cheese bagel. This is the most Jewish conversation I've had in like a year.
That sounds amazing.
To have that in a British term, is that like having a chicken breast or a processed piece of chicken?
Could be like a chicken nugget versus a nice chicken breast.
Yeah, that kind of thing. You're masticating it and sticking it in a sauce to sort of hide the fact that you've destroyed the actual creature, although you've killed it anyway. But yeah.
Again, it's the essence of what the thing was for a discounted price. Very American.
All I want to do is know that there's some salmon in there, and then I'm going to feel like I'm eating something classy.
Yeah, like you take a $11 bagel, and now it's only $6.50.
Yeah, but I had lox. I had lox on a bagel for lunch. So
do you have any idea how many likes you'll get from the white girls if you say that you had a lox bagel and mimosas for brunch?
I'm going to write that down now.
Valley
You are
girls.
gonna
Lox bagel. Yeah. Okay, got it.
mimosa.
I feel like that's
Yeah,
a Valley
mimosa,
girl thing.
mimosa.
Have you seen Bo Burnham?
Yes.
I
Bo
haven't
Burnham-
watched him. No.
Oh man, he basically says everything that our generation says, but in a way that no one's ever said it. I mean, it's he has a new song out right now called White Woman's Instagram. And it's incredible. I mean, it's a masterpiece. It might be the greatest thing I've
I have
ever
to
seen.
look that up.
Greatest thing
We're
since
done here.
Mozart, basically. Greatest piece of
Mhm.
song.
Yep. Greatest thing I've seen on TV since Monty Python.
Wow.
So there you go.
Which
Big
bit of
jump.
Monty Python? That's the problem.
I've seen the Holy Grail, obviously. My father
Of
was real
course.
big into it. But I remember he never used to let me watch Life of Brian. He always said Life of Brian was the one that was too adult for me because I think they run around and their jimmies are flapping or something like that.
There is some full frontal nudity in it.
That's it.
But it's
Frontal.
tasteful. It's tastefully done.
In a
There is
way
some
that only
bush.
the Brits could.
So's a lot of the porno I watch, but
It's very tasteful, yeah.
Equally done.
Well, sometimes you feel like you can smell it rather than taste it, don't you?
Jesus, what is wrong with you?
he's British.
He's washing his mouth out now with
Yeah.
I feel dirty.
with that
Like, I feel
bourbon.
markedly more dirty than I did previously.
That's what happens when you come on this show.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because Monty Python, they did I think they did 3 films.
Mm-hmm.
So they did 127 hours of Monty Python sketches. There's about half an hour of those 127 hours that's any good. The rest of it is pretty much pure garbage.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah. That was the name of the 3rd film, I believe.
Yeah. Life of Brian, now for something completely different. Holy Grail. But I mean, listen, some of like my wife, like she can't watch the real Office. You know, the first Office. She
The
can't do it.
British one.
The British one. And I'm giving you
Yeah.
credit. Obviously, it's the real one. It's the first one.
It is.
Where I think Ricky Gervais is hilarious. I think he's hilarious.
I have to admit, I love Ricky Gervais. I respect the hell out of him. I think he's a fantastic bloke. But I would much rather watch the American Office. The thing about it is Ricky Gervais is so good in the first one at being annoying that
Yep.
he annoys me too much to watch it. Whereas
But I
Steve
also
Carell
think
is still likable as well as being annoying.
that's true.
Ricky Gervais he reminds me of British people too much to the point where I think, God, I hate you.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is either. Probably just the minimal amount of exposure I've had to British television. But for me, if I watch some kind of British media, and I see somebody in it who was popularized by a very popular worldwide distributed media, like a Harry Potter or something like that, or like Pirates of the Caribbean. In the British Office, one of the supporting cast members is the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean with one eye.
He is, yeah. Yeah.
I can't see him as anything but that, and I don't know why that is.
Well, that happens to me as well with Benedict Cumberbatch on the BBC version of Sherlock
Nice try.
Holmes. He's shut the fuck up. He's Sherlock, right?
Yes.
And he's Doctor Strange in all the Marvel movies. But I
He
always
is fantastic as Sherlock Holmes.
He's amazing as Sherlock.
I think where you're going with this is basically you get these actors, but in fairness, I think it's because they're so good, they will always identify as that person in your mind.
Yeah.
That character is cemented in your mind forever. Like, I mean, the character in the Pirates of the Caribbean with the wooden eye, some of their little bits together, their little to and fro, their little dynamic is some of the best bits of the film, in fairness. They're so good.
In normal life here, I'll find something funny and I'll just be like, bootstraps.
Bootstraps.
all the time.
Yeah.
So I can't see him taking orders for copy paper, in the office because I just hear him, hello, Poppet.
And Martin Freeman was in The Office, and he's now the Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
He was Jim's character. So
wasn't he also
he was also Watson in Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Great movie, by the way.
Fantastic movie, fantastic books.
Mm-hmm.
I need to brush up on that.
I've never heard of a book, but the movie was excellent.
I mean, can you guys read over there, or is it?
It's all pictures now.
Yeah.
You can read the front of whiskey bottles, but until you've had too much to drink, and then it goes blurry. That's why yours is a triple X, because it's just noticeable.
Also true. I mean, for the layperson, moonshine, as soon as it touches a barrel, makes it bourbon. It's not that as simplistic, but essentially you're taking White Lightning, moonshine, whatever, and all of the color, most of the flavor, all the characteristics, it come from the barrel. So
it is the barrel that actually colors it with the brown.
Unlike your shitty piss whiskey over there, we can't do anything to bourbon at all. The second you do anything to bourbon, it becomes some other classification of whiskey. So if I added flavor, not bourbon. If I distill it above a certain proof or put it in a barrel under a certain proof, not bourbon anymore. If I don't use a brand new barrel, it's not bourbon. It can be American whiskey. There's nothing wrong with American whiskey.
So all the flavor is coming from the barrel as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously something to be said for the mash bill or the recipe, the ingredients
how
that
you
go
distill the actual alcohol itself.
Right. So bourbon in its most simple form has to be at least 51% corn. At least 51%. If you use under 51% corn in your recipe, in your mash bill, it is no longer bourbon. If you so your next most dominant grain, it can be wheat for like a softer, easier drinking whiskey. It could be rye for a little more spice. It could be barley, for more of a softer, fruitier bourbon. But as long as 51% of it is corn and it's made in America and it's in a barrel that's never been used before, and you follow a few other guidelines, you've got bourbon. But it has to be made here and it has to be in a brand new barrel. When you're talking Scotch or other forms of whiskey, the adherence to a strict set of guidelines isn't as meticulous. So like Scotch, a lot of people like Scotch a lot more than bourbon because some people say, hey, it's 51% corn. It's aged in a very agreeable climate. Most of these bottles are going to have relatively similar taste profiles, which I can give that to some people who are not educated. But like Scotch, yeah, exactly. But like Scotch, you have a lot of barrels that are used a second time. You got barrels that are like wine barrels originally that then Scotch goes into next. So to be fair, there's a lot of, strict guidelines for bourbon, but it can also be relatively one note to people who have always been drinking other kinds of whiskey before bourbon.
It's sort of a purist thing then. If you're going for bourbon, it is effectively, it's like your top-notch purist version, and then you start going down to whiskeys. That's why it's so highly rated and so expensive. Not necessarily down, but just...
Well, no. And I'm trying to answer in a way that doesn't sound pretentious, but I'm trying to think, if you can't add any color, you can't add any flavor, you have to distill it in a certain way, above this temperature, but not below this temperature. You can't do anything to the barrel besides move it around a warehouse. Yeah, I mean, essentially, if you're trying to make corn whiskey, bourbon is the highest version of it.
The difficulty of the process makes it so much more high profile.
I mean, again, there are a lot of people who like single malt scotches. There are a lot of people who like finished whiskey. They like a whiskey finished in a port barrel or a rum barrel. That's fine. Bourbon is exactly what it is. It's real difference. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like say getting a laboratory made diamond or getting a blood diamond. you want that blood diamond because it's, someone's had to actually pull that out the ground.
Yeah, just less.
That
That's
was
probably a little bit of
that was a pretty dark.
There's a whole lot of other analogies you could have gone to before
Yeah.
you
and
landed
that's
a
the one I
blood
went
diamond,
for. Yeah.
but I think I get where you're possibly trying to get to. But I mean, again, bourbon makes a really great old fashioned. Would other whiskeys work as well in an old fashioned? No, but I think you really have to be like, if somebody came to my house right now and wanted a bottle of wine, I have one. If they wanted anything else, I've got a little Captain Morgan, a little Sailor Jerry, and Everclear.
Oof.
I don't have variety in this house specifically, but what I like to do is I would love to have you all over, or maybe send you samples and we do this again, running through a gamut of a flight and just walk you through what you're exactly tasting. You can get vodka anywhere.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing is because I've seen you've done like tables of your taste tests and you've got your categories of and how you rank them out of 10. So
Yes, sir.
what are the sort of things you're actually looking for?
So I'll answer you in a simple way. When in the way that bourbon works in America, we have a 3-tier system for distribution, meaning that from distillery, I can't go walk up to Jim Beam. I mean, you can go to the gift shop, but I mean, other than that, I can't get bourbon directly from Jim Beam. Jim Beam has to make it. They have to sell it to a distributor. That distributor has to sell it into a market, either a bar, a restaurant, or a liquor store. So if I am going to be on a barrel pick where the store or the restaurant or the charity group I'm with, they're going to buy the contents of the entire barrel. And they've asked me, which is I'm very honored when I do get to go on, to help them pick a barrel. There's a couple of things that I'm looking for personally. What I'm looking for at a bar, just for myself with me and some friends, way different. But if I'm looking to try to pick a really great barrel of bourbon because the liquor store owner is about to drop $10,000 on a full barrel of bourbon, what I'm looking for is if you came in to this store or this bar or whatever, will you taste something different and unique than the other version of this in a regular liquor store? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So this bottle of Knob Creek was picked for hops, grain, and vine. It's a liquor store in Atlanta. That is a different Knob Creek than the regular Knob Creek you'll see at 99% of liquor stores in this country.
Yeah.
So when they picked this one, that barrel, they want it to be a little bit different than the other Knob Creeks that you would get out there on the shelf.
Yeah. So you've got like your generic version and then you've got your more specialized.
Yeah, so it's like the vanilla version versus going out there and actually picking. Is that 100%. A common practice with liquor stores, or did they just kind of send us what you got?
So again, these are great questions. So let's say you own a liquor store in Tucson, okay, and it's very highly trafficked, and there's a lot of people in there with disposable income who like getting nice premium bottles of whiskey.
Yeah.
That liquor store, if I just moved to Tucson myself, I'd be looking for that liquor store that does specialty barrel picks, one-off exclusives, things that I can get there and only there. That's where I'm going to buy my Coors Light, the wine. That's where I'm going to buy the other things I buy in a year besides bourbon, because I know I'm going to keep shopping here because they have private barrel picks that they do. So I will look for those, and I'll look for liquor stores like those explicitly for that one-off variety and exclusivity.
So it's seriously going back to the diamond thing. So that's like going to get a Pandora bracelet or going to a jeweler that's a specialized single jeweler.
If you want bourbon,
in that kind of, only because I've used that.
No, it's
before.
fine.
Yeah.
It works because if you just want a diamond on a bracelet because you're taking some nice photos for your graduation, I mean, who's gonna get that high quality close to the camera to see, how many imperfections there are
Yeah.
yada yada. If I'm
It's a
trying to mix something with Coke and I'm trying to get pissed drunk,
Yeah.
any Jim Beam would do just fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to have something where people come to your house and go, my God, I haven't seen that before, or I've only seen that one in pictures, or whatever, you want something like what's called a single barrel. Like John, you drink single barrel Jack Daniels.
Jack, yeah.
That means somebody went to Lynchburg, Tennessee, and picked out that barrel specifically, or the master distiller or master taster said that barrel by itself is good enough to be bottled as its own thing, as opposed to going in the massive stainless steel vats and get blended up with all the other Jack Daniels that we're producing today.
Yeah,
So
see, I never
each
knew that
single
term. That's
barrel-
awesome.
Each single barrel that John drinks effectively is going to be a slightly different.
Great. 100% perfect observation. This Knob Creek right here will not taste like, I have a couple of the Knob Creeks back there.
Yeah.
It will not taste like another Knob Creek. I mean, would a discerning person pick it out? Sure. Would a regular drinker pick it out? Maybe not. Maybe not. But the good thing is, normally these single barrels don't cost any more, typically, maybe a couple dollars here or there, or either way. So you're going to get something that is limited. It was picked with intention. And it's a single barrel. So you might as well buy that one, if you're going to drink with purpose.
But you're still getting that sort of Knob Creek sort of
Taste profile.
age profile, smoky flavor, whatever it is that matters, but
Mhm.
with a few minor differences.
Yeah, I think there's something similar in wine. I think certain wineries will allow bottlers to pick certain grapes from a certain portion of the vineyard, and I want all of those bottles that get out of this portion of the vineyard.
I've heard of people going to vineyards specifically, and they know where all the grapes have come from. They know the time of year they've come from. That's the kind of thing they're picking, and they go and pick their 100 bottles or whatever the hell they take home for their friends to drink, because it's come from that specific spot.
That's a great point. Also, why do you have wire cutters in your hand?
I hadn't noticed that I was playing with them. Yeah.
I saw you bring those into the frame, and I'm like,
I have a very, very overactive mind, and I tend to do about 6 different things at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I have a
I
very
don't often notice with it.
special set of skills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just a really fucked up head which needs to be shot. But there you go. Whichever one it is.
Yep. Both are acceptable.
Just wanted to shut up, which is why I'm getting into whiskey. Just try and shut that thing that keeps going off in it.
Yep. I mean,
it helps.
You also go ahead, buddy.
Oh no, I just said it helps.
Yeah, I mean, and my thing too is, again, bourbon no longer is, for anything really of quality, there's really nothing under like $30. Sure, there are some great value drinkers. There are some really great bottles for the money. Evan Williams, bottled in bond. It's a white label. It's 100 proof. It's at least 4 years old. It's like $14.99. There are some diamonds in the rough for sure, but since most bourbon worth a damn is above $30, in my opinion, that's why I want to know as much as I can about it, because anybody can buy a TV spot or a social media posting or sponsored posting to show up in your algorithms.
Yeah.
But I don't try to be, and I've never called myself an influencer. I hate that I even brought the word up, but if people are going to follow me, in my mind, I have one goal, and it's not to get a shitload of free stuff. It's to really be able to use my platform to say, you might get swindled by hype and by marketing and by people who have a lot more followers than I do, pushing products only because they got something for free.
Yeah.
I try to not be like that. I try to, that's why I think if you look at like engagement numbers, which is what brands use to pick their influencers and sponsored people, my engagement is typically very high because I don't have a professional camera. I don't have fancy lighting. I use my phone and I send them to my wife to edit because she has a nice app. So my followers are really because, in my personal opinion, I try to be honest. I try to be truthful. And if you have $50 extra of disposable income in a whole month and you want to buy a bottle of bourbon, I hope to at least shine light on what's good, what's great, and what is pure hype and trash.
So a bit of value for money. And the only reason you picked your wife is because of her lovely app, is it?
She has her app, you know, even after 2 kids, that app is, she's awesome. She is great. She is great. I love her.
I'd let her edit my videos anytime, is it?
Yeah. No, I'll let her know how much you appreciate her app.
When you are ranking these things, you're ranking them on their numbers. If you're someone who's a taste tester, when you're ranking these numbers, are you usually getting the same sort of figures put in towards it as them? When you're doing it for a distillery, you know, your rankings like the smokiness out of 10.
Yep.
Or whatever. Would that mean that as a taste tester doing that specifically, taking out of account your preference, you're generally going to get similar to another taste tester?
Yeah, this is one thing I use my platform for all the time, and I don't want to knock any brand specifically. However, there is a brand right now that is getting really a ton of press because it's backed by famous athletes and a famous football player and a famous tennis player. It's a $200 bottle of bourbon. It's marketed specifically to golfers and bros, and let me tell you, it is god awful.
Yeah.
Now, if I say it's god awful, it's what's called in my circles, we call it a drain pour. The bottle is only good to pour down your drain and get rid of clogs. It is unanimously a drain pour. And I'm answering your question that way because if I see somebody right to the contrary, I don't do this for money or anything. This is a hobby for me, so I can say what I want. But people who do this full time, if they write positive reviews about this bottle specifically, they are bought and paid for.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm a better taster out there than everybody else who does this. However, I know enough to know that what I like and what I can taste in a spirit should be either, if I say it's good, universally it should be at least good. Maybe some say stellar, some say incredible. It should be good. But if I say it's bad, a drain pour, my opinion is the industry as a whole should universally say it is garbage.
So you're all going to get sort of a similar-ish critique of it, but there'll be a slight difference in palate or preference.
I mean, so the San Francisco Wine and Spirits Competition is one of the more respected judging competitions of spirits. And there's actually a guy named Jim Murray, Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. It is very well respected. It's read all around the world. He does all whiskey, doesn't just do bourbon. So if he picks like World Whiskey of the Year, it is typically supposed to be something where you should go out and find this bottle because Jim Murray wrote about it, or San Francisco Wine and Spirits gave it like a gold or a double gold. You should
to the bank.
You should be able to take that to the bank. I hesitate saying that a little bit. I wish it was being able to be universally true. However, it is a money game now. People pay to get in. Right. Not only that, but they don't just pick some regular old barrel and send a sample of that in. They try to find what's called a honey barrel, their best of the best. They try to send that in to the competition.
So they could be tasting something that's not actually going to go to the shelves.
What I taste on a shelf is never what normally went to the spirits competition.
Yeah. So what he could be tasting and giving a gold standard to might not be what you buy.
Yeah.
What ended up in Tucson or what ended up in Louisville, Kentucky is mostly markedly different than what was sent in for judging.
Yeah. Do you think the internet has had a big effect on your ability to find, for instance, like pound for pound good value whiskeys? Do you think it has changed because of that?
I think I have a running story on my story right now. There is a bourbon put out by Heaven Hill Distillery. Heaven Hill is the largest privately owned distillery. It's by the same family, by the Shapira family. It's a massive conglomerate. They make bottles like Elijah Craig, Henry McKenna, really popular, really popular brands. Well, they have a bourbon that they put out with their own namesake, and it has strategically been a price fighter. Punches way above its weight class. It is Heaven Hill 6-year. It's a green label bourbon. It has always been like $11, $9, $13. It's always been very, very inexpensive. However, every time a blog, a social media person talks about how good of a dollar value that bottle is, it gets harder to find.
Yeah.
So on my story on Instagram right now, whenever this ends up airing, it's still true. There are stores in Louisville right now that people are sending me photos of where that bottle is $44.99.
So effectively gone up 4 times the price.
And it's not any different. It's not any
No.
older. It's not any more special. It's the same bottle. It's the same label. But because people keep talking about how much of a good value it is getting harder and harder to find it. Liquor Barn and Total Wine, both very large liquor stores, they had a restriction on it of 2 per person and then 1 per person because everybody was clearing the shelves of it.
Yeah.
Something that was good value has just stopped being good value because people found out.
I'm on my way to being the crotchety old man in a wheelchair, telling all the kids to gather at my feet and let me tell you about the way bourbon used to be.
Back
I'm
in my
about
day, you
halfway
could
there.
buy a bottle of this for $11.
You put down your talk face and your tick book and you pay attention. Papa Berman's going to learn you something. I will take the batteries out of that robotic dog right now if you don't listen to me.
In fairness, it's not going to look like a robotic dog anymore.
I don't know what it's going to be.
It's going to be
I
a
don't know.
Cybertronic dog or something that runs on
Yep.
solar power and never dies. And it'll bark at you all the time and you want to kill it. And then it will be murder. Eventually, it will be murder.
It's everything becomes sentient and we all lose.
Yep.
I've seen this movie.
We could all be sentient now, but we just don't know it.
True. But yeah, I mean, again, talking cyclical. Remember when bourbon wasn't popular, they did gimmicks.
Yeah.
Well, now bourbon is popular. So what other gimmicks can they do? One thing that's very popular right now is, and I don't want to knock them too hard, but the bottle I was just giving an example of, that's $200 undeservedly.
The celebrity endorsement.
The whiskey in that bottle is not made by the namesake on the label. It's a very common practice. It's not like it's unknown that people don't always make their whiskey. Knob Creek is made by Jim Beam. So they actually, Jim Beam does make the bourbon that goes into Knob Creek. There's a lot of bourbon, and some of it, a lot of this top row, it all comes from the same distillery in Indiana. But this one comes from Louisville. This one comes from Nevada. That one over there comes from Chattanooga, Tennessee. But the whiskey inside all comes from the same distillery.
So
It's not an uncommon practice.
So is that what you say? Is they come from the same distillery but a different distributor now? Is that or just a different brand?
So let's say the 3 of us want to create a whiskey brand, right? We pool all of our money together and we want to start a distillery. Well, bourbon is not a fast game. It's a very slow game. You put the whiskey in a barrel and it ages and it ages and it ages, and you can't speed up that process no matter what you do. However, we have bills to pay at our new, and I'll let you guys be creative enough to come up with the distillery name. But we have a distillery, so damn it, we need to put out a whiskey. Well, we can't touch our own stuff because it's still aging in a barrel.
Yeah.
So what do? We come up with a cool bottle, a cool label, and we go to barrel brokers. On the open market, there are barrels available to purchase.
Of hairy nipple.
Okay, so we got the Hairy Nipple Distillery. Okay, we got the Hairy Nipple Distillery.
Harry Areola.
That's a special
Hairy area.
voice.
That's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Harry
I like that.
Areola bourbon.
Harry Areola.
There's no way you're saying that 3 times fast when you're drunk.
Hairy Yellow.
Well,
Can't say it
You
once.
can't say it one time sober. Case in point. That's marketing right there. That's research.
Yeah.
So if we have to pay our bills back, what we can do is buy bourbon that somebody else did all of the work for.
Yes.
So we can buy on the open market somebody else's bourbon on the open market, put it into our own bottle with the hairy nipple label on it. So that's what a lot of these folks have done, is they have bought other people's bourbon, and maybe they did something kind of unique to it. This one has a really
Drop a
cool
nipple
bottle.
hair into it.
Every bottle with a nipple hair from the master taster. That's how you get quality. That's how you know.
And you got to put it on the back of your throat.
I'm very uncomfortable right now. I want you to know that. So we could be bottling this bourbon that other people have made and get it in through distribution into liquor stores and bars while our own stuff is still aging. Very, very common practice. What becomes a problem is, let's say, again, same distillery. Let's say this bottle is $70, but this bottle is $50. Same exact liquid inside. I mean, small differences. We can get into a fight later about that, but markedly, without a ton of difference, it's about the same bourbon because neither of them made it. They bought it from the same place in Indiana. But now, like, so if you like this brand because you're in Vegas and you want to support them, maybe you'll pay $20 more than this bottle because I want to support local. Fine. But what if this bottle is $50 and this bottle is $200?
Yeah, because it's endorsed by a celebrity.
That's what makes it tough for me. What makes it really tough for me is in the famous bottle that I'm alluding to, there's no different than whiskey that's currently on the market in another bottle. And that bottle is not good.
Yeah.
So that's part of the downside of social media right now. It's the downside of the boom of bourbon that we're in right now, because you can be led astray based on branding, celebrity endorsements, and social media reviewers that are getting paid off in free bourbon or dollars or merch just to write a positive review. I am everything opposite of that.
The thing that's good for you and about you is the fact that this, as you said, this is your hobby. You have no vested interest in what you're doing. Yep. So trusting your word over someone who's had a large endorsement so they could buy themselves a new condo.
Yep.
You know, you probably, this is an important thing, and I'm going to go slightly off topic here, is about how always look at your source. When you're looking at someone who's done a bad review of, for instance, Joe Rogan, who we were talking about post-show before you came on.
Pre-show.
You've got to look at that source and be diligent about whether or not you think you can trust that person.
Yep.
Because they could be doing it purely to get, as one of our other episodes is, clickbait.
Yep.
Traffic and money.
If you look at the folks who have written a positive review about the bottle in question, all of the reviews end with, and this bottle was very nicely provided by the distillery.
Yeah.
Everybody who has a, I mean, and I do not want to tarnish anyone's reputation, but in this little speakeasy I'm in right now in my basement, I had 3 to 4 much bigger social media accounts than myself, all in my basement. We cracked that bottle here. My wife's first impression was, it smells like old lady perfume and old deli meat on the taste.
Now that's what I want down the back of my throat.
Smells of old lady perfume, taste of rancid deli meat.
Yikes.
That bottle is $200 and they can't keep it in stock. I don't get it, and that is the downside. To directly answer your question, that I think is the downside of the popularity of bourbon, is you have if you know the algorithms and you got a nice camera and you buy followers or whatever, you can very quickly get on what's called the PR list for a lot of these distilleries. So your name goes on the list when a new release is coming out. You're getting one. Please review it because you're now part of media. The
term influencer is obviously very apt in those cases.
I can't stand it.
Influence.
I mean, I can't stand it. I mean, and I know in other hobbies, whatever, like makeup hobbies, if you say that something is good and then it's trash,
Yeah.
you are lambasted. You are, made fun of ad infinitum, on YouTube videos, or people making fun of your glowing YouTube video if the product actually sucks. In bourbon, it is so popular right now. Your one negative review, or what I would call an honest review, is buried under people who have a lot more followers and a lot bigger network. And to me, it's a shame, but I'm not going to work harder just to get to a place where my negative review is seen with the same level and weight as the positive review from the folks who either bought followers or figured out the algorithms faster than I did. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. That was one of the things we were talking about, like people's integrity with all this followers and clickbait and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It also comes into this idea of this pissing contest as well, because they're sort of just trying to say, I've got this bottle that's been endorsed by this person. It's nothing to do with the actual bourbon.
That's never going to get old.
No.
I really like that a lot.
Can I make that my notification sound? I'm going to need you to send that to me so I can
bourbon.
Bourbon. I like that.
Bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, and in a similar way, though, once the community as a whole agrees that something is good, it's gone. And I know it sounds really weird, because if you walk into any liquor store, you've got a favorite wine or a favorite beer or a favorite vodka, whatever. The idea that somebody was sitting in a parking lot in a fold-out chair waiting for the store to open to get it because the distributor gave him a tip of what day that special bottle of wine or vodka gets delivered as a tip-off. I mean, that sounds so foreign, but in bourbon, almost every day somewhere in the country, there's somebody camping out in front of a liquor store parking lot, waiting for the store to open to get something rare.
And that's where you talk to you're being in a privileged position where you get to go and taste those ones, because you're in a position where you can know before the bottle hits the shelves whether or not something is certainly good. So following you means that people can get those kinds of tips. Things fly off the shelves.
For sure. Or on the flip side is, if you follow me, and this is the most I've ever talked about myself as a page, but I guess it is partly true. I mean, I'm very close to 3,000 followers. It's very cool. I never thought this would happen ever. But the flip side of that argument is, if you follow me, you should be able to walk past the line full of people that have been there since 3 o'clock in the morning. And you can walk in the store at 8:01 when it opens. You wave at all of them and you go buy something better, or just as good of a value that will always be there. I mean, it's not breaking news that these two bottles right here, these E.H. Taylor barrel proofs, it's not going to move the needle if you tell everybody that's a great bottle. It's universally known as a great bottle, and it's universally impossible to find.
Yeah.
But if I tell you that a different bourbon that is $40 less a bottle will wet your whistle just as well as that one will, then I've done something I think is worthwhile.
And you're also, because you don't have that large following, a lot of those people are gonna, because they follow someone who's got 100,000 followers, they're gonna walk in and buy something that they've been endorsed to buy.
Yep.
And that's what they're gonna go to. And your followers are gonna walk in there and go, ha ha, you're all idiots. You're wasting your money.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Me and Nick kind of had this conversation that if we ever got paid to endorse anything, that would be our favorite thing ever. And
we would absolutely do it. We have decided we are going to sell out.
we made a choice, and damn it, integrity out the window.
Forget integrity. We are all about the money.
Yeah.
So it's good to know. I've got a wart cream I need to show you guys then.
Give us 10 cents and we'll endorse it. We'll show off a wart on any part of our body
and use it during the show.
Give us that 10 cents.
Yeah.
No. I mean, the other thing that's a little weird right now, and I don't know how many people really know this or not. I mean, are you aware that people buy and sell bourbon on a black market right now?
I was not aware of that.
It doesn't surprise me, I'll be honest, but no, I didn't know that.
Sure. It's not like I'm uncovering, Silk Road or, the dark web.
Whenever there's something desirable, there's usually something going on.
There's a market for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as of right now, that's one thing that's really tough for bourbon going against it is like like there's actually right there, there's a bottle of Van Winkle. So there's one of the bottles of Van Winkle sitting right across from me. So that bottle, right, retail price, MSRP, regular old retail price is $79.99.
Yeah.
Okay. If you open that bottle and drink it, you'll be really surprised. It's a great bourbon. It'd be one of the better things that you drink in a year or maybe 5 years. However, most people no longer open them because that bottle on the secondary market goes for over $500.
Oh, wow.
Because of how difficult it is to purchase in a store.
And with bourbon being so popular right now, you have people who ship bottles to Japan for their wealthy business people. You have people who have it. I need one for a status symbol, or I need one for my client. I need one for this golf outing. There's such a status symbol with rare bourbon. The Pokemon card, it'd be like that Charizard is pretty good when you're playing Pokemon. It's pretty good. It's not the greatest card in Pokemon, but it's a really good card. And well, if I use it though in this game, I'd probably win that game. But if I nick that card, I just lost out on $1 million.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to use that card. Same thing with Van Winkle right now. I could pop the cork and drink the bottle and share with my friends, or that bottle could pay for my car repairs.
Supply and demand.
I have a medical bill coming up due. I could just sell that bottle and
or
there
move
you
to the
go.
UK and then you get included medical with your tax.
That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother conversation. But you have that playing against bourbon right now as well. The desirability plus scarcity plus a thriving secondary market. These people are hunting for these bottles. And I used to get really pissed about it. But, during COVID and everything, people lost jobs. People had their hours cut. If you can sell some bourbon, and I know it sounds really weird. It sounds crazy foreign if you're not in this hobby day in, day out. But if you can make a few $1,000s in extra in a month selling liquid that you're going to piss out in an hour.
Yeah.
I don't knock anybody for doing it. I really can't blame anybody right now.
Yeah. No, desperation changes a lot of things.
It's bourbon. Is that bourbon? So is that bourbon $600 or $580 better than Knob Creek?
Yeah.
That's basically what, it's really tough to say that.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't this isn't food. You don't need it to survive. This is surplus.
100%.
This is for the quality of your life. So if you do something like that to help you get money to buy food, to feed your family, what can you say really at the end of the day?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Forbes has written articles on it. Heavy.com has written articles about it. I mean, there's articles all over. I mean, this is mainstream stuff now that people are buying whiskey to hold on to it. I mean, my buddy, and I 100% strike me down if I'm lying. My buddy just sent off a full pallet of bourbon to an auction house.
Oof.
Bourbon that he's collected for years.
Yeah.
He sent it off to an auction house. He's got about $25,000 of whiskey on that pallet. He expects to bring $110,000 at auction.
Yikes.
That is how popular bourbon's become in just like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Nice.
Forget buying Bitcoin. That's what I'm buying.
I mean, the wild turkey that our grandparents would drink. If you found an old bottle of wild turkey right now, in fact, if you found one of these decanters and it still had all the bourbon in it, these decanters sell all day long for $250 or more if they're full. That, again, that's just how popular bourbon is right now. It's wild, man. It's 100% wild.
That's awesome.
In some ways, it's no real different to like people who used to buy and sell gold and silver.
Yeah.
They used to collect it and hold on to it until the value in the market went up.
Yeah. So what do I attribute to the boom to bourbon? It's I think it's really people who back in the 70s, bourbon dipped because people didn't want to drink what their parents drank. It was a form of rebellion. They're going to drink vodka and they're going to do cocaine or whatever people were doing back in the 70s. They rebelled against their parents. They didn't want to do what they drank. Well, now it's come full circle. and we want to drink what our grandparents drank.
Yeah, because there was a reason they drank it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think you get these sort of boring out. Like if you see your parents sitting around sipping a glass of whiskey, you're
Yep.
not going to feel like it's rebellious to go to a bar and get drunk with your friends off of something that's you're like, well, that's just something people sit around and sip.
Yep.
That's not exciting.
I mean, I know people who have found pictures of themselves sitting on their grandpa's lap, and on the table next to them is a bottle of Wild Turkey.
Yeah.
Our generation, and I don't know if we are benefiting. This is probably a more appropriate conversation, for you guys, because you like getting into the layers of, culture and fads and all that stuff. But I'm wondering if our generation isn't inherently more nostalgic because we have the tools to keep memories alive for longer in order to be nostalgic, right? So
Definitely.
I mean, if I want to see if I saw a picture forever on my mantle that my parents had, and it's of my grandfather with a bottle of Old Granddad.
Yeah.
I want a bottle of Old Granddad from my grandpa's era, and I will pay big money online to have a bottle of Old Granddad from the 80s or 70s and drink it like grandfather drank it.
I think there's a there's a pre-internet sort of side to this, as you're sort of saying about, because if I take a picture of on my phone, that picture is all I could put it on the internet and it's never ever gone.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a single one-off picture back in the 70s. No one can ever have that picture. That's a one-off picture, so it's rare. It's like this is something to do with how they're using these. They've got these blockchain things, haven't they? So now you can have the original picture, and these are selling because I'm into photography. They're selling some of these $40,000 or $50,000 dollars for a photograph just to have the blockchain code to say that they have the original.
That's
and
wild.
This is a picture you can download offline if you want. I can go onto their Instagram and I can screenshot that picture, and it's mine.
True.
I think that's the way it's sort of changing. I think people are trying to get to a one-off like it used to be.
Sure.
I
mean, here's a perfect example. So up there is an actual old bottle of Wild Turkey from 1989, my birth year.
Yeah.
So an actual Wild Turkey bottle on the shelf right now is like $13, $19 maybe. I think my wife bought that one for me for like $250.
Oof.
Now the bourbon inside, which is a whole nother conversation, the bourbon inside is markedly better than the Wild Turkey of today. It's actually incredible bourbon. I mean, it was still 8 years old back then. Wild Turkey now is no longer 8 years old. The water was different. The trees were different for the barrels. Whatever. She knew that I wanted a bottle from my birth year. And so she paid big money for it. I mean, there's a whole generation of people who are either we grew up too fast or who knows what it is, but we want to live in a previous moment this many dollars worth.
Yeah. And I think it's difficult to feel in the moment nowadays, whereas again, pre that, it's the nostalgia value makes you feel like you could be in a moment. Like, I mean, there's a very popular thing like the American, you've got your oil signs, and your advertisement
American
boards
Pickers.
and your old American fuel pumps, stuff like that.
Yep.
That kind of nostalgia speaks to people it was a simpler time. You hear that term a lot, didn't it? It's a simpler time.
I mean, again, if I'm pouring you guys bourbon, we're not slamming it back. I'm going to sit here and ask, hey, how are the kids doing? How's life over there? Are you still working in that factory? I'm going to ask you all those things because we've got 120 proof whiskey that we're going to nurse. We're going to nurse it along. We're going to sip it. We're going to exchange stories. I'm going to catch up and see how you're doing. So again, if we're at a bar and we're going to line up some fireball shots, I'm going to slam them back, water, done. We leave. This is something intentional. Have a seat over there. Let me tell you about my kids. Have a seat over there. I want to hear about the job. How's the family? It's all about slowing down. Yeah. And again, I don't know the audience that's going to see this, but if you go on Hulu or steal things like certain people do and not pay for anything, if you go on Hulu, I know that's you, you silly goose. You got to watch Neat, the story of bourbon.
I watched
It's on
that.
Hulu.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Dude, it is you. It's like watching Field of Dreams if you're a baseball fan.
Yeah.
You know, it just invokes something in you that's like, that's it. That's why I watch baseball, or that's why I drink bourbon. It was made with intention. Again, the movie basically ends with, if you're a master distiller, a title that probably took you 15 years to earn at a distillery. So if you started working at that distillery when you were 20 years old, and it took you 15 years to be a master distiller, you're now 35 years old. You put down your first whiskey in a barrel that you intend to leave for 15 years. You don't try that whiskey in its maturity until you're 50. So you do some things differently. You don't like it that much. It didn't come out exactly the way you wanted. You go for it again. So now you lay it in the barrel for another 15 years and you pull it out and you're 65. You get maybe one more chance to do it and get it right.
Yeah.
It's not
Quest
vodka.
for the perfect bourbon.
It's not vodka. It's not beer. You
No.
can't just make it to have it.
It's like an art form in a way, isn't it? With a very long lead time.
That's part of the beauty in it. I mean, this is 14-year bourbon. That there's no shortcuts. It sat in a barrel for 14 years to end up in this belly. Should be honored by the privilege. Don't take it lightly.
No.
And we could keep going on, but that's actually quite a really good line to actually end on. If that's
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 hours, boys.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Listen,
We always end up getting into this.
If people don't know your show, I think one thing that's really good about you guys is it elicits further conversation. You pull it out of people. You want to get them to keep talking. So for anybody else who wants to get on the show, you know, they did not ask me to say this, but it's true. I didn't even I could have sworn it's been like 20 minutes. It's been 2 hours. I welcome the conversation. You both are insightful, and I will do it anytime.
We'll have you
We'd
anytime.
love to have you back.
Yeah, that was great. I had a lot of fun.
I appreciate
Learned a
you
lot too.
Yeah. Next time we'll do
we will have
the
whiskey.
after hours version.
The what? Sorry, the tasting.
Yeah, we'll do a tasting and we'll do the after hours version where we can get into a lot of the things that we delicately skimmed over to appease an audience.
Yeah.
Our audience, a lot of the things that we've said so far will probably not appease many people.
And that's why you come on here.
Have not been very impressed. We've had one particular individual who I've had many debates within the comments about. He's a firm anti-vaxxer.
You can't help those people, so I would not waste your time talking with them.
No,
that's why I don't even try.
Yeah.
The only reason I do it is because the more comments, the more algorithm it hits. So
smart. You're a smart man.
Yeah. 14 comments on it definitely helps boost our ratings, I think.
We're getting there.
Well,
we're getting there.
Thank you all for the opportunity to join you. It was a lot of fun. Just send me an invite for the next one.
on.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Anytime. And tell them where they can find you, bud.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Bermansbourbon. It's my last name, but you can't put an apostrophe. So it's Bermansbourbon. And
we'll put
I
the
look
link
forward
in the
to,
description as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody, even beginners, let's have a chat.
Excellent.
Very friendly guy, guys. Really friendly.
Thank you, man.
And I'm sure it'll be a lot more humorous next time when we're when we're allowed to digress.
Yeah.
I don't know how I can get you some samples, but if I can ship you some samples and get you all proofed up, then we'll really have some fun.
You can probably give me some information, and I could probably find places to buy it. But yeah, it's difficult around here because it's not our drink. We have whiskey. I mean, we got Jack Daniels and Jameson, of course, but I don't know where I'd actually even buy. I've never ever attempted to.
Get Knob Creek. We'll all have a Knob Creek, and we'll do round 2 where we all drink the same bottle.
I could definitely get Knob Creek, no question.
Okay.
I'm on it. I'll practice
we'll have
a lot.
some fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Warm
Thanks,
up the
buddy.
palate.